If that doesn't mean I'm not listening. Yeah.
But I think it's going to change.
Good morning. Welcome to the session, An Ethical Principle in Development Programming. Your presenter is Millicent Kamara. Your presenter is a graduate student in the MSW program. Her concentration is in community practice. Her internship was at Mission Waco Mission World. The session will last about 1 hour. At the end of the session, please complete the evaluation form and provide it to me along with your CU attendance form so I can initial it. And at the end of the day, you will need to turn your CU attendance form and the CU registration form at the check-in desk. Now join me in hearing Millicent Kamara.
Thank you. All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for taking the time to be here this morning and for us to learn together. My name is Millicent Kamara, as mentioned by Christine. I'm a Sierra Leonean, and as you can hear, I have a different accent. I said speak along. Please, you can stop me and ask a question for clarification just in case I say something that is not clear to you, maybe because of my accent or something. And you'll notice that there is a flag right there. There is a flag right here. Like I said, I'm a Sierra Leonean, and that represents the flag of my country. It's green, white, and blue. And I looked very close to it this morning. If you have any questions, please write down your questions, and you can ask me at the end of the session. There is a time provided for questions and answers. But like I said, if you have an issue for clarification, you can stop me, so I clarify. Thank you very much. So now, okay, my topic this morning is actually sustainability, an ethical principle in development programming. I want to journey together and look at sustainability and how is it an ethical principle in development programming. We will go through and look at the agenda that we have this morning. Like I said, each and every one of you is welcome here this morning. Thank you for being here. We'll look at the objectives, the definitions, a few definitions, and the evolution of sustainability, like the history how it started up to this point. We'll also look at why do we need to talk about sustainability this morning. What's the relevance for that? We'll look at the theories of the framework. What are the theories that inform sustainability? We'll also look at some of the models that are being used across cultures and in different contexts. We'll look at some indicators of sustainability. What are the things that you see in a community or in an individual or within a family that will tell you that this family or this community is sustainable? And then we'll move further to look at the implications for social work practice. And then time for question and answers and discussion. Then we conclude. All right. Okay. The objective is, one is to assess the relevance of sustainability in development programming. Why do we need to talk about sustainability whilst doing development work? We'll also look at ways of exploring the different models that are being used in different parts of the world. And then we'll discuss the role of social workers in enhancing sustainability in development programming. All right, moving from there, I just want to start and talk about my internship agency. This last semester that ended in April 2015, I was interning at Mission Waco Mission World. Mission Waco Mission World is actually based here, but I started my internship with Mission World. Mission World is the international arm of Mission Waco. And so I have my internship purely in Haiti. Mission World works in Mexico City, India, and Haiti. but my focus was in Haiti. Okay, but this great organization has a mission, and let's just look at what it seeks to do. It seeks to facilitate Christian, holistic, and relationship-based developments and enhancing the well-being of vulnerable population like the poor in Waco and in those countries that Mission World is serving. And they also seek to mobilize middle-class Americans to be involved, to be engaged in working with the poor and vulnerable populations in Waco and the other places that they're working. The third objective we have this morning is to, of the mission of this organization, is looking at ways of overcoming the systemic issues that perpetuate injustice of especially the poor and vulnerable people. So like I said, my internship when I started, I actually interned with both organizations. I started with Mission World and my focus was in Haiti. And in Haiti, I was looking at sustainability because Mission World has been in that country for 30 years. And we are working in one community called Ferry. So my focus was in that community and facilitating development programming and looking at particularly sustainability because they have been there for 30 years. We're looking at ways of how do we enhance sustainability at this point in time after being here for 30 years? How do we look at the different things that will lead to this process? And we looked at identifying community-based organizations as well as international organizations working in that community to see how we can link the local partners that are there to those organizations so that whether Mission World will continue to be there or not, they will be able to sustain their interventions. So those are basic things that I was looking for. And then in February, I transitioned to Mission Waco because of security reasons. I could no longer go to Haiti. So I transitioned to Mission Waco. And the thing that I was doing in Mission Waco was working on the fair chance advocacy campaign for ex-offenders. So I was mostly like focused on that particular thing and worked with different organizations, the local governments, other agencies looking into the issues of ex-offenders and ex-offenders themselves, including other community individuals, private organizations, and see how we can explore partnership and collaborative relationships to be able to sustain that intervention. Because the founder of that particular intervention is a legal person, and he founded it like 2 years ago, but he was like a lone man working on it, and we started looking at ways of sustaining it. So we don't just do it because it was only done during the Lent season, but how do we ensure that we continue to gain momentum for this until we achieve the goal that is there. So that was my focus in Mission Waco when I transitioned until the end of April. So now, I just want you to describe sustainability in one word. If you hear the word sustainability, what does that mean to you?
Stable.
Stable, okay.
Continues.
Sorry?
Continues.
Continuous, yeah.
Independent.
Independent. All right. Thank you very much. Those are all relevant words in describing sustainability. Now let's look at what other people call sustainability. Sustainability is a development process that meets the needs of the current generation, this present, today. But then in the process of meeting the needs of the present, they also work to ensure that the needs of the future generations continue to be there. The future generations will continue to thrive. So it's not just about today, it's also about tomorrow. Because let's say, for instance, even us as parents, when you give birth to your children, you don't just work for yourself. You want to invest in those children. So that whether you will be there or not, or whether you pass or not, those children will continue to be like significant contributors to society. They will continue to keep the family name. So you want to see that sustainability. So it's not just about now. It's about both now and the tomorrow. Okay? So that is how sustainability is defined. I want us to please look at the underlined phrases. Just bear them at the back of your mind as we progress. Now I want to look at the other definition, which is development. So development is a sustainable process. You see how sustainable plays. It's a sustainable process that is geared towards meeting the needs of the majority of the people But not just that, it also seeks to enhance the growth and benefits of everybody, not just the minority. So this definition is actually holistic because it doesn't just look at physical structures. Like when you talk about development, most people will think, oh, we need a school, we need a hospital, just looking at the physical things. But development goes beyond that. It has to do with changing attitudes and behaviors and culture. It's a lot. So in as much as development seeks to enhance the satisfaction of needs of the majority, it also ensures that they do not only focus on meeting the physical needs of the people, but they look at the issues of human rights, social justice issues that will contribute to the well-being of every person. And it's not just about the minority, because most of the time when we go to communities we talk about, oh, the minority, just the poor. But development is about everybody because we are all at different levels, okay? But most of the time the emphasis is on alleviating the needs of the poor. All right, now let's look at sustainable development. According to Bossell and other writers, they said sustainable development equals to sustainability. Reasons being that, if you look at the definition of development and the definition of sustainability, they are all talking about the same thing. Because development talks about a sustainable process, and sustainability talks about a development process that is sustainable. And besides, they also look at three different aspects. They look at both the social aspect of human development, they look at the economic aspect, and the environmental aspect. So both sustainability and sustainable development are the same thing. They are looking at the same thing. You can't say I'm going to do a development that is not sustainable. Then it's not development. If you're going to facilitate development, it has to be sustainable. Because you're not going to be there forever. Imagine if you are the head of an NGO, a non-governmental organization, you go into a community and want to facilitate development. You're not going to be there forever. You leave the people because that's not your community. So whatever you do there has to cater for those three phases of development, and you have to ensure it is sustainable. All right, now we are transitioning to the evolution of sustainability. And in 1972 and 1980, in 1972, a think tank that was put together actually did an evaluation of development processes around the globe. And they came to realize that there is a limit in growth. There is a limit in growth because of human activities on the planet. Remember, we are living in a finite world. But people continue to grow. We continue to do different things and expanding the limits of that finite world. And we are also engaged in activities like, for instance, we have a lot of factories that are emitting gaseous substances that have negative implications for the environment. And business people, sometimes we are just focused on profits and not looking at the impacts that making profit will have on the social factor as well as the environmental factors. So, because of this evaluation, we came to realize that if we continue to grow this way, we're gonna reach a limit that we can no longer go beyond that. Or otherwise, we're gonna be faced with a kind of destruction. And so as a result of that, in 1980, the world leaders came together and put together the World Conservation Strategy. The World Conservation Strategy looks at both the economic side of sustainability or development, they looked at the social side of development as well as the environmental side of development, and see how those three factors will contribute to enhance sustainable development. And then, in 1987, there is this other research that came up, and then they put together this theme, our common future, the future that we want. As a result of what has been happening, human activities on the world, we need to find a way forward. So what is the future that we have? That's how the definition of sustainability that looks at the present but not compromising the needs of the future came into being. It actually came from this research that was done. In 2000, to enhance sustainable development, they adopted the Millennium Development Goals. We'll talk about the Millennium Development Goals as we progress. The Millennium Development Goals are actually 8 and looks into different components or different aspects or phases of human well-being. And in 2008, everybody knows that we have the economic crisis that affected the entire universe. And according to different research, they said it's because of the low or limited investment on sustainability. Yes, people were still facilitating development in different parts of the world, but it was not very sustainable because it was mostly the social and the economic, not paying attention to the environmental component of sustainability. And in 2012, they put together the Rio Declaration and Agenda 21. The principles for these two documents were actually focused on enhancing environmental sustainability because each of them have implications for the other. If we live in this society, we live in the environment. And if we contaminate the air and the environment, we'll be sick. There will be pollution. Whatever we do to the environment will affect even the economy. Imagine there are agriculturists, there are farmers growing things that the business people will use to impact their businesses. If the environment stops producing, whatever it's producing, it's going to impact the economy and it's going to impact lives at the same time. So this Rio Declaration and Agenda 21 were put together to not just look at the economic and the social components of development, but to also put more emphasis on the environmental components of development. So they titled it The Future That We Want. In 2014, which is just last year, these same leaders, world leaders, and they are still discussing, they came together and said, you know what, I think sustainability is the underlying principle for development everywhere. Whether it is individual practice, whether it is community practice, whether it's you're working with group, you have to ensure sustainability. So now they are creating sustainable development goals. Sustainable development goals will replace the Millennium Development Goals. They are not very different. And this Sustainable Development Goal will guide the world from 2015 to 2030. I am not able to bring them up in this presentation, basically because a lot of discussion is still going on around Sustainable Development Goals. People are suggesting 6, other groups are suggesting 7, other groups are suggesting 17. But we hope that maybe by the end of 2015, they may have approved and come up with the final ones. So basically, this is the evolution of sustainability. This is how it started up to this point. So people are still thinking, development practitioners are still talking about it at different levels. Why are we talking about sustainability? Why is sustainability important? Sustainability is important because currently it's a global concern that needs urgent attention because of its impact on humanity. It involves both the private, the public, and the civil society. Everybody is concerned about this because whatever happens to the environment, whatever happens to the economy, whatever happens to the social component of development is going to affect you as a person, it's going to affect you as a family, it will affect you as an institution. So it's very important. It's not just about governments, because most of the time we say governments, but this is about everybody. Okay. It's a participatory process. Sustainability is important because it's a participatory process that employs democratic principles to ensure effective governance and accountability for everyone, including the poor and vulnerable, including institutions. And it's also ensure that the poor, which are mostly marginalized systemically, take part in decision-making processes that affect them. So they are not excluded when you facilitate sustainable development. You should ensure the inclusion of these people. Because you will not facilitate development for a group of people without including those people. Then who are you facilitating the development process for? And who is going to own it at the end of the day? It's them. So they have to be involved, they have to be a part of it. It's important because sustainability is based on human rights principles that ensure equal justice, equal rights, and equal access for everybody, not just one people. It enhances fair outcomes for the poor and vulnerable, for the rich, for everyone. It's not just like for one person or for a group of people. It's about everyone, ensuring that everyone enjoys fairness in this world. In some of our contexts, like in Sierra Leone, we want to say, I'm happy about this because it will facilitate social justice for women and children who are mostly marginalized in those contexts. It may be different, but even here, you have some of those inequalities happening. So it is important that sustainability looks into some of these things. talks about inclusion and connectedness. You cannot do sustainability, like I mentioned earlier, without including people. And here it's not just about the poor. It's about everybody. It's about suppliers, it's about managers, it's about teachers, institutions, it's about religious leaders, it's about everybody. How do we bring all of those stakeholders together and engage them in the development process? Because each and every person has a role to play in development. Nobody will develop anymore, except the person is willing to develop him or herself. Otherwise, you'll just be wasting your resources. So we need to engage everybody in the community in this process to ensure that it works. Sustainability puts in place processes and systems or mechanisms that will ensure accountability, that will ensure good governance, that will ensure participation. Because if you don't have those structures, it's difficult for individuals to stand and want to do something that will last. You need the structures. If you enter a community as a development facilitator, you want to identify the existing structures that are in that community and see how you can leverage on those structures to bring about development and sustainability. Because at the end of the day, you will leave, and these people will continue to do the work. Sustainability also promotes relationships, interactions, as well as partnership and collaborative efforts. Because if you are bringing everybody on board, they will start by building relationships with those people. And then looking at how can we work together? How can we do this thing together? And start thinking together and put strategies and policies in place to ensure that the work is done. It links both the formal and informal institutions, both within and outside the community. You know, when you talk about partnerships, you don't just talk about partnership within the community. Like Sierra Leoneans have a partnership with US or other countries in the world. We receive funding from USAID, which is the government funding agency, for other countries to do development around the world. So we have that relationship. And it also delivers on the 8th principle of the Millennium Development Goals, which is about global partnerships. So it's important that when you're facilitating development, sustainable development, both the informal structures that you find at the local level are very important, as well as the formal structures, the government structures that are there. They are very important for you to link them together so that they can work together and bring about the desired change that we look forward to. Sustainability embraces the triple bottom line approach of looking at both the economic, the social, and the environment. It doesn't isolate you, they are inseparable. You cannot say, I am going to do this development. I'm only going to focus on the social component of development and leave out the environmental component. That development is not going to be sustainable. And you want to ensure it is sustainable. So when you're doing development, you look at all of it. Let's say, for instance, whilst I was doing my internship at Advocacy Center for Crime Victims and Children in my first year, you say, okay, in that center, people come there, most of the people that come there are survivors of gender-based violence or sexual violence that normally come there. So when they come, as a case manager, you want to do an assessment with those people. You don't just focus on the problem that is there, but you want to look at what are the environmental factors that are impacting this family that is leading to this issue. What are the economic factors? Are the parents working? Are they able to provide for this child? Are they able to provide safety for this child? Are they able to look after this child? So it's about looking at everything, not just the problem that is there. Because you want to have a clear picture as to what is affecting this child. What are the different factors that are affecting this family that is leading to this abuse? So sustainability is about everything, whether it is individual practice or community practice. It enhances the quality of life and well-being by seeking to meet the needs of humanity, all of our needs. Our physiological needs, that's like physical needs, we want water, we want food, we want different things. Sustainability seeks to do that in facilitating development programming. It provides safety and security, look at our love and belonging needs, our self-esteem needs, and actualization. At the end of the day, you want to pay back to society. You want to ensure that you are able to contribute to society. You want to ensure that, okay, at this point that I am in my life, I think I'm feeling confident. To an extent, I can stand and talk about issues. I'm not talking to myself, I'm just saying, referring to myself, okay? So it's about everything. It seeks to enhance the provision of needs for humanity. an underlying principle that underpins the Millennium Development Goals. Initially, I mentioned the Millennium Development Goals. These are the Millennium Development Goals that have been there from 2000 to 2015. That's why world leaders are meeting right now to put together what they are now calling Sustainable Development Goals that will take the world from 2015 to 2030. So you see, it looks at eradicating poverty and hunger, it looks at enhancing universal education, promoting gender and women's empowerment, looks at reducing maternal and infant mortality as well as the morbidity rate, which is prevalence of diseases, looks at the environmental component of development, want to ensure environmental sustainability and global partnerships. So these are the Millennium Development Goals, and sustainability underpins each and every component of the schools. If you facilitate education, you just want to build a school and there is no community structure that will ensure the continued functioning of that school is going to collapse. Because you need a structure at the community level that will make sure that whether you are there or not, this school will continue to be maintenance, the teachers will continue to be in school, the children will continue to be in school. So in some communities, they have what they call school management committees. They are made up of local people. They bring them together and they look at education at the community level and report to the district or to the national level as the case may be, depending on the context. Sustainability also ensures access. Sustainability looks at human rights principles, justice, and the economic, the environmental, and the social components. So it enhances the promotion of equal access for everybody, but with special reference to the poor and vulnerable. Because most of the time they are excluded, they do not have access. Maybe because they cannot afford the goods and services that they want, or maybe because they cannot get to where the goods and services are. So what sustainability does is, if you facilitate it, it will promote access for everybody, including the poor and vulnerable. And lastly, it doesn't just focus on the present, it looks at the future. It creates, it conserves, it restores, and improves the needs of people. It seeks to do that both for the present and the future generation, looking at the economic, the social, and the environmental components of development. Now, you realize that sustainability is not social work. But just looking at the reasons for which we are facilitating sustainable development, you see how sustainability delivers on social work values, justice, human dignity, human well-being. So as a social worker, you cannot separate sustainability from social work. It's not possible. You will not say, okay, because I'm a clinical practitioner, I'll be able to do my work without enhancing sustainability. It's not possible. Once you are a social worker, these two are linked, and sustainability is an approach to whatever you do to enhance human well-being. All right, we are now transitioning to the other component, trying to look at the theories of this framework. We'll be looking at systems theory, the empowerment theory, and the strength perspective. There are a lot of other theories, but I just want to focus on this morning. The systems theory. Systems theory looks at different systems, and just based on the definition of sustainability that we have looked at, we realize that sustainability in itself looks at both the economic system, the social system, and the environmental system. And these systems interact at different points at every level, either at the community level, or at the national level, or at the regional level, or the global level. They interact together. And it is very relevant for sustainability because sustainability looks at different systems, both at the global level, at every level, it looks at different systems. But the important thing about systems theory and its relevance to sustainability is that it makes provision for the uncertainties of the system's interactions. Because like human beings, when we interact, when you have a friend and you're interacting with a friend, you can either influence the friend or change the friend, or you have conflict with the friend. So it caters for all of those uncertainties that will come along as systems interact. It's also very integrative. It links systems both at the global level, at the regional level, at the national level. So it looks at subsystems, look at general macro systems, and they ensure that they work together to impact the desired goal. Besides, it's also very inclusive because it's a participatory-based approach. So it makes up for that. Sustainability looks at participation and inclusion and partnership and collaboration. So systems theory is very relevant to this because it makes for this. It makes for all of the different parties to come together with their different perspectives and thinkings and approaches. It's also an adaptive, it also has an adaptive capacity. It is able to adapt to ensure like resilience. Resilience is like, for instance, the ability for you to cope and bounce back when there is a situation. So systems theory has that capacity to cope regardless of the number of systems that are interacting. So it is very relevant for sustainability. Let's say, for instance, whilst I was interning at Mission Weko, Mission World with the advocacy campaign on fair jobs for ex-offenders, we interacted with different people, the local government here, business people, other organizations in the community, as well as the ex-offenders themselves, because we are gathering evidences to ensure we inform the campaign. So we interacted with different systems, including faith organizations, churches in this community whilst doing this work. So that's just an example of how different systems can come together to enhance sustainability. And the empowerment theory. It looks at the empowerment theory, and what it does is it creates an awareness of the power dynamics that are prevalent in the context. It's for you to empower somebody, you have to ensure that the people are able to learn, develop the skills, and have the information that they need to gain power and control. But when they get the power and control, they should not infringe on other people's rights. They should be able to respect the other rights of the other people and be able to ensure the empowerment of others in the community. As you can see from the diagram there is a missing link in the puzzle. When somebody is empowered, they have the necessary information, the knowledge and skills, then they will be able to fix that missing link. Otherwise, if they don't have the information, the skills and the knowledge, they will not be able to fix the missing link. So empowerment is very important for this. You have the strength perspective. There is no community or person that is void of resources. Everybody is invested with talent by God himself. We have different talents as individuals. And every community also have resources. And so from the individual perspective, you can see that people have competencies. They are resourceful in themselves. They have a purpose in life. They have things that they want to do. And at the community level, you find out that the same individuals that have all of this strength are also in the community. And they come together to make up groups, they establish institutions, they build relationships, both within and outside of the community. But the most significant part of this is looking at cultural competence and humility. Because most of the time, as social workers, maybe you think, oh, I have the resources, maybe as a donor agency, I have the resources, or as social workers, I have a master's degree, I know everything. And you enter into a community thinking that you know everything, and you're not willing to learn, you're going to run into trouble. So there should be that ability for us to learn from the people, listen to them, and work leveraging on those resources and assets that are already there. Let me give you a story. There was this great organization that went into a community to work. And then they saw these women. Women go to the stream in the morning and in the evening to fetch water. And so what they did was, just looking at the suffering of the women, they think the women were suffering, and decided without asking the women to construct a water well in the middle of the town. After constructing the water well, the women were not using the water well. They were still going to the stream to fetch water. And they were like, what's going on? They decided to ask. When they asked, the women said, in this community, women don't speak in front of men. And most of the time in the mornings, men are seated in the outside of the buildings, having their conversations. We can't be there. So we go to the stream to fetch water. That's where we have our conversations about our families, about our everything. So you put in the water well right in front of the men. We can't use this because our opportunity, the chances we have for us to discuss our business is taken away from us. So that's why as social workers, we have to be careful and pay attention to these issues whilst we work in communities. Now we want to look at the models of sustainability. We're going to look at the economic, the social, the environment, and how they integrate. So like I've been saying, we have the social components, the economic component, and the environmental component. And these ones, at the end of that, every point of intersection of this, like here, where you have the social and the environment intersecting, they should be able to persevere. Yeah, they should be able to persevere. And here, this intersection or this interaction should produce fairness, justice. And at this other point, They should be able to reproduce themselves. They should be viable. So you can't separate, like I said, you can't separate sustainability from social work or just want to focus on economic and even the environmental component. Is not possible. Now let's look at the details of these interactions. When they interact, when the social and the economic interact, you will see that you'll be able to have employment trainings and other things will happen. Because that tells you can't just focus on the social component. Because if you focus on the social components, yes, human rights will be respected, there will be diversity, there will be all of this, but you'll be missing out on something. So that's why sustainability talks about looking at all three of this, because at every point of intersection, they produce things or activities that are relevant for human existence. Okay? All right. Okay, so when the environment and the economy meet, you see we have here energy efficiency, we have energy resources, and the environment is clean, we breathe well and everything. So it's important for us as social workers or development practitioners when we're facilitating development, irrespective of the community or irrespective of the person we are working with, please let our assessment be focused on all three of this because it is relevant. Now we want to look at the indicators of sustainability. Now, the definition of sustainability, let me give you a very simple definition and let me not bore you with academic things. It's like a signpost, a sign that you will see. If you're entering a community, you look for particular things. So indicators are like signposts that you see that will tell you maybe the progress that is going on in the community, whether there is progress, whether there is no progress, or whether you are getting to the goal that you wanted, or whether you are not getting to that goal. And look at ways, okay, if I'm not getting to that goal, I need to redesign. I need to relook at this process and find better ways of doing it. We want to start with the economy. In facilitating the economic side of sustainability, when you enter a community, you look at the employment or unemployment rates. You don't have to go to Sierra Leone for you to know whether Sierra Leone is economically viable or not. Just by you sitting on the internet and looking into the economic research around the economy of Sierra Leone, it will tell you. And it's not only focusing on the employment or unemployment. It looks at the education. What is the literacy rate of this country? What is what are the skills that are available in this country? The human resource capacity. If that is low, that tells you employment will be low. Because if people don't have the skills and the required education, they won't be able to work. So that's an indicator that you want to look for. It's also look at the national level, we also look at economic growth. Normally they call it the gross domestic product, the GDP of the country. If the GDP of a country is high, you will come to realize that that country is thriving. But if the GDP of the country is low, you come to realize this country is not really doing well. So these are indicators that will tell you whether a country or a community is economically sustainable or not. But now let me take you to a sample of work. During my work with World Vision, we facilitated skills training. Skills training is a process of empowering those people that maybe are not educated or drop out of school, do not have skills. And so empowering them with skills to ensure that they have a job, they are self-employed and become self-reliant. That's just an example. Microcredit. During my internship with Mission World was facilitating microcredit scheme with women in Haiti. These women are mostly vulnerable women. Some of them are widows, some of them are survivors of gender-based violence. They are brought together, but building on their strength perspective. Those particular women that were benefiting from the microcredit scheme were people that are already engaged in doing some form of business. So they leverage on the strength that they have, build their capacity to do different trainings, and then give them a grant with a minimal profit. At the end of the day, this group actually has a 95% loan repayment rate. They are able to pay their loans, but at the same time, not just pay their loans, taking care of the health and education needs, including the nutrition needs of their families. So you see that even as facilitating economic empowerment, the intervention is also sustainable. So now Mission World can leave. These women will still continue to thrive because they have what they need to continue to thrive. We also facilitated agro-business initiatives in Sierra Leone, whereby farmers are given, are supported to produce cassava at a very, very extensive rate. So, and then they are trained and supported to process the cassava into gari, Cindy knows gari. So process the cassava into gari. Gari is like cereal, but it's different. You can add milk, you can add fish, whatever you want to do with it. And people can live on it. So these farmers are not just able to produce, but they are also able to sell to meet the needs of their families. Okay. And after doing these primary initiatives with them, now at least they have some sort of income. And then we introduce the Village Savings and Loans Association. The Village Savings and Loans Association are like a bank where you save money. But these community people come together, save their money, and then use the money to loan other people in the community or in their group. We link these people, these farming institutions, the women's group, and other initiatives to institutions, like say for instance, when you support farmers, you link them to institutions like WFP. One example is WFP was providing food for children in Sierra Leone, but it was mostly wheat. But at a point, the children do not like wheat, because for Sierra Leone, for us, it's rice. Rice in the morning, afternoon, and evening. If you don't give me rice, I have not eaten since morning, no matter what you give it to me. So what WFP did was work with the farmers, empower the farmers, and they produce a lot of rice, buy the rice from the farmers, and then provide this rice to the schools. So the children can still continue to use the school, but at the same time, put income in the pockets of the farmers. Adult literacy, for those that cannot read and write. If you're supporting them in doing business initiative, you have to help them to read and write. So nobody will take their monies from them. Like for instance, if you go to the bank, you need to read and write. Okay. On the side of the social sustainability, we look at access to resources. It's an indicator you have to look for. Do these people have access to resources? Safety and security. Is this community safe and secure? Are these people engaged, or are people just facilitating their development for them, or they are engaged themselves? Is there equality? Is there fairness? Are women participating? Are children participating in this development process? Are they enjoying their rights, or their rights are being violated? So you look at all of those things. Housing. Are people having access to housing? Or are broken houses only for the poor, and the good houses for the rich? Those are the things you look at when you get to this community. Quality public space. Do you have like parks, recreational centers in these communities? That's another indicator. Education. Are there schools? Do children have access to schools? Or there are no schools in this community? Health centers. Do people have access to quality health facilities or services? Sanitation. In Sierra Leone, most of the time we burn our trash, thereby polluting the air. Affects the health of the community. Okay, let's just look at a few samples of work. Like we do research, you do research to understand the reality of the community. If you don't do research, you will not understand what is happening in that community, and that will serve as a baseline for you to work from, for you to leverage from. And so we establish and strengthen community-based mechanisms. If you identify these existing structures, if they are not there, you establish. If they are there, work with the existing structures. It's better. Let me give you an example of the Development Management Committee that we worked with and how sustainable it became. In Sierra Leone, people were using what we call TBA house, traditional birth attendants, because we do not have like access to hospitals. So these traditional birth attendants are actually elderly women who help women in childbirth in the communities. But there came a time, because of the high rate of maternal and infant mortality, the government had a moratorium on institutional delivery. Nobody should deliver a child in the village or in a house. Every delivery has to be done in the hospital. But by that time, we had constructed 5 traditional birth attendant houses because they were delivering women in the bushes or wherever. So we wanted to ensure cleanliness or sanitation in this, so we constructed these places. So when we realized that, then I engaged the Development Management Committee that I was working with in this particular community and said, you know what, we need to do something with these buildings. And I helped them in doing a research to understand what is the distance, because in Sierra Leone they construct a health facility based on distance. It should be minimum of 7 kilometers. And so we checked the distance for each of these 5 structures that were there. We also looked at the catchment for communities, the number of communities that surround each of these structures. And then we looked at the population. What's the number of people in these communities? Because those are the indicators that Ministry of Health looks at. So what we did was, we looked at all of that, and for the first 2 times, I scheduled an appointment with the district medical team. We went there for the first 2 times, and after that I told them, you have to do it yourself. So what I would do was, give them the vehicle when they are ready, they were doing that. And right now, 4 of these facilities have been transformed to a community health post. And there are nurses paid by government, having medicine and everything. So they are now enjoying access. If not for this structure, we are not be able to do it. But they advocated for themselves. So now, whether I am there, World Vision is there or not, they know the doors that they should knock, they know where to go, they know where to seek services. So that's where sustainability is very important. So we also provided like bed nets for women to look at the health components of the social aspect and infrastructure. This was a school in one of the communities in Kenya. This was the school that we met there. And at the end of the day, World Vision constructed the school in that community. And this is a classroom. So you see the difference there. So looking at infrastructure, looking at the social component of sustainability, those are some of the things. There are a lot of things that we should do, but these are just examples. Okay, now let's look at the environment. Looking at the environment, we have a couple of things: the food and agriculture, wildlife habitat, green spaces, the parks. Are there parks? Water, and not just having all year round access to water, but the quality of the water matters. Because if the water is contaminated, it will also lead to diseases in the community. So you also look at the air quality. You don't just want to be burning a solid waste everywhere, because it will pollute the air and people will be sick. And so some of the sample of work for this is like, we did what we call inland valley swamp development. Because when you're doing farming, if you do upland farming, it's good. But at the end of the day, you cut down all of the trees, thereby affecting the environment at the end of the day, and causing erosion to sweep the nutrients of the soil and making it infertile. So we are focusing on inland valley swamp development, because after developing a swamp like this, you can grow rice there all year round, because you are able to control the water that comes in and goes out. So that was one initiative that we did. And the other one was establishing tree crop plantations. Tree crop plantations were used. You will have them when you do this, you can have them for generations. So you don't have to be cutting trees. And besides, we process palm oil from this, so you bring monies into people's pockets, but also provide food for them. And we worked with schools. We have the inter-schools tree planting competition. So even children were engaged in enhancing environmental sustainability. We did composting, so that in composting, you put your solid waste in this pit, you dig a pit, you put them in the pit, and at the end of the day, just use soil to cover it up. You don't have to burn it and pollute the air. So these are eco-friendly initiatives that one can use to enhance environmental sustainability. And then awareness raising and education, just educating people about the impact of either negatively or positively affecting the environment and its implications on us as a people. So now we want to basically look at the implications for social work practice. When you enter a community as a social worker, the first thing you do is to build relationships. Relationships are very critical. If you don't build a relationship, you'll not be able to understand the people. Especially in some of our contexts, it's difficult to understand us. And you do research to understand the realities of the community. You ensure the inclusion and participation of everyone. Do not leave out the poor. If you're there to enhance the well-being of the poor, don't leave them out. Include them in the process. Have a sustainability plan. You have your goal, you have your outcomes, you have your activities, and they will tell you whether you're making progress or not. It's like in individual direct practice. As a case manager, you have a case management plan, right? And then you work with the clients to ensure that that plan is delivered on. It's the same as a sustainability plan. Okay, you either establish where structures do not exist, or you strengthen the existing community-based structures, identify them, build relationship with them, and find ways of partnering and collaborating with them. So that whether you are there or not, these people will continue to work and have an impact. Empower the people. Give them their self-determination. Don't take it away from them. Even as you empower them, train, equip with tools and information, link them to resources and services so they know where to go and where not to go when they need something. And please do not take away their self-determination. Don't do it for them. Allow them to do it themselves. Monitor, reflect, learn, and evaluate. Don't forget to integrate. It's a very important component. If you don't, you will not know whether you're making progress or not. You will not be able to tell. And the last point is document, share learnings, and promising practices. Don't keep all of the learnings just to yourself. But the thing about promising practices is that you have to contextualize them. There can be a promising practice in Haiti. I can't just take it and implement it in Sierra Leone. I have to contextualize to ensure that it works in this environment. All right, this is basically it. But as we transition, now it's time for us to talk about questions, discussions. I have a question for you before you start asking me questions. What did you hear today that you might take and or adopt in your practice?
I'm curious about how this could impact how we design evaluations of organizations. Here, just thinking about past assessments I've done on organizations, I haven't included all three in any one assessment. So I wonder what that could look like, even stateside. I'm just thinking about, there's a increase in the standards we're putting business leaders to, but so if Apple or Microsoft or something didn't recycle, we'd be whining about it, but we don't have recycling at at my nonprofit agency. So looking at like, that's a really small example of that, but like the larger implications of that in the community, I haven't seen an assessment that has all three of those. So I'm curious to see how that, if we held everyone to all three of those standards and not just larger development organizations.
Okay, that's good. Maybe one way could be you identify an organization in the community that looks into recycling things and see how you can build relationships with them. So that when you have your solid waste, you hand it over to them and then they will do the recycling. Because in the US, I'm seeing that even bottles are now being recycled. You have a bin where they say put bottles here and put this other one here because people are recycling things. So it's about building relationships, identifying those institutions and building relationships. Any other?
I think it's a great reminder and example that ultimately, while we value our jobs and our roles in our communities, the ultimate goal is to work ourselves out of jobs. And I think we forget that sometimes. I think we go in and we want to help the community, irrespective of the community or of the programming, and we want to build it up and big and serve a ton of people. And at some point it becomes about that practice or program and not the community. And so when that leader pulls out, are the people better? Have they really, I mean, Haiti, I've spent time in Haiti. Haiti's a great example. We do so much in Haiti, but at some point, do we need to pull out, and do we need to let the people have their own sustainability? Or at some point is their sustainability absolutely contingent on our support? And I think those are tough questions that we sometimes don't really wrestle with when we go into communities, because it's more about us and us building and showing, and this is what we can do. And then the focus is on us and not the people in the community. So
That's a very good example. So that's why when we enter a community, we should seek to learn from the people. And sustainability starts right from the first day you start working with people. Right from the first day. You do not integrate sustainability where maybe you have done like 5 years. If you have not done that, yes, you can go back and redesign and integrate those components into your plan or into your projects to ensure that you change the way you do business. Because it's all about the people, it's not about us. It's not about showing the resources that we have. It's about the transformation that we see at the end of the day in the lives of the people. Any other thoughts?
I appreciate the attention that you've given to global partnership, because I think that for those of us who've been in particularly international development for a long time, we went through a phase of feeling like sustainability meant that everything that happened in that area had to rely upon local resource. And I think what I've learned through time is that that we're a global community, and that just because there are international partners, I've just seen so many in the early days of this transition from dependency, building dependencies in colonial methodologies to a healthier model, that the inclination was just to withdraw support altogether and to say, you need to be self-contained, you need to only draw resources from your own community. But I think that this awareness that we are a global community, and that everything that we do impacts others, and that doesn't necessarily mean there's absolutely no outside resource, but that, you know, the goal is to ultimately lead to a sustainable product. That may take some time, so do you agree with me?
Yes, I agree with you. It's really not about, because sometimes some communities you enter, yes, they have resources, but they need external resources or additional resources so that you leverage on what they have to bring about the change. If you don't have those external resources and just dependent on the local resources, yes, you may bring about transformation, but it's going to take forever. It's going to take forever in some cases. So you need the concerted efforts of everybody at the global level, regional level, and the local level. Put all of those efforts together, and then we can move forward. That's very important. Okay, there is another question there. Is there any one thing that you seek to do, whether in your personal life, or in your family, or in your practice life? Just thinking about some of the things that we discussed today. How would you want to integrate or enhance sustainability? Could be one word, not a phrase.
I've been thinking about what you said about building strong infrastructure. And I was thinking that sometimes I think we can get siloed in our work. We kind of build programs somewhat independently. And I think what is a real strategy is that you make sure other people have a vested interest, like that you share responsibility, that you knit kind of in a way that other people have responsibility in the work that you're doing as well, so that it's a shared effort and therefore it has sustainability. You know, it's not siloed and by itself.
Yeah. No one person, regardless of your resources, you can't facilitate development or enhance sustainability. Because let's say, for instance, even us are not going to be on this earth forever. We're going to pass. If you pass, what will happen? So you want to involve other people so that if you pass, people will continue to carry that thing. And then they will also invest in other people so that when they pass, the other generation will carry that thing and run with it. That's why the definition is saying it's not just about today, but it's also about tomorrow. Okay. So, in conclusion, I'm saying sustainability is relevant for all people, irrespective of their age, their race, gender, religion, and it's applicable in all situations and at all levels and in every context. It's not just Sierra Leone or in Africa, even here, we need to enhance sustainability. As individual direct practice, we want to empower your clients with tools so that when you terminate, they may not have to find out your address and start running after you. No, they need to know where to go and find resources because you've empowered them during the process. So it's about everywhere. Sustainability is everywhere. It's for all people. Therefore, Martin Luther King said, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matters. Does sustainability matter? It does, right? Because Malcolm X said, the future belongs to those who prepare for it today. So the future is about today. If we want to see a better future for tomorrow, we start now. Don't wait until tomorrow. Don't wait for governments. Don't wait forever. Start with the resources that you have, and then we can progress from there. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today and for us to share this little amount of learning. Sustainability is huge. We can talk about this for years. Yes, but this is just a small piece of it, and I think we should share with other people so that in our families, in our practice, we'll ensure that whatever we do, we integrate components of sustainability in there. Thank you very much for